Hi all, this is Jez. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of Beyond the Barclay. This time we're joined by former Norwich City striker Drewe Broughton. Drew talked to us about his time at Norwich and his current role as the fear coach, where he helps sportsmen and women across the UK and beyond with the mental side of the game. Unfortunately, due to some technical issues, we lost the introduction, but we pick up the conversation from when Drew was in the Norwich Academy. Enjoy the episode.
Scored 30 goals in the first season and scored 22 by Christmas of the second season, then got my debut away at Crystal Palace. Me and Craig Bellamy came on, 20 minutes to go at Selhurst Park.
That was going to be my next question to you. Who was the players sort of in and around that setup that you played with, and who was the manager at the time?
Yeah, Rob Green, the goalkeeper, Bellas, Chris Llewellyn, Adrian Forbes, Shea Wilson. I'm Darren Kenton. I mean, there was about 8 or 9 of us who went on to play 300-400 games plus in the Football League, which is quite incredible, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
And I joined Norwich, came through there, and then spent the rest of my career searching for the player that everyone had seen at 15, 16, 17, 18 in one season.
Yeah.
5 clubs, all at non-league, which I'd never really been at before. And that was a tough period. Yeah, I think Zima was there, yeah.
Yeah, I remember obviously my chat with him when he was coming into the football centre I worked at in Luton. He quite often talked about his time at Owlsey Town and with fondness really. And I think his brother still plays or has some involvement with the club. So I mean, sort of jumping into some of the questions that we set you, Drew, and you may have covered some of this already, but can you share any pivotal moments that shifted your perspective on both the sport and life?
Great question. Pivotal moments that shifted my perspective on the sport and life. Well, I think the most pivotal moment was the first time I came out of the game at 33 and was sat in Sporting Chance speaking to Tony Adams and going, well, it's the first time you're out of it.
Yeah.
And it was silence and you're in a forest and there's no phone and it's like, right, you're going to sit with yourself. And that was a moment of deep reflection to go, wow. And the head therapist there, James, who set up Sporting Chance with Tony, incredible guy. He retired now, but when I sat in some of my one-on-one therapy sessions and he said, you're suffering with severe PTSD.
Yeah.
That was, whoa, what do you mean? I've not been to Afghanistan or Baghdad. I haven't fought for, I'm not in the army. How do you have PTSD? Well, Drew, constant judgment, constant naked humiliation in public, in terms of you're out there every week being judged, critiqued, your own, and things started to make sense. So I think that was a moment where you look back and go, it's not as. I wish it was as simple as just playing football. Yeah. It never is, even though you want it to be just as it was as a kid. And there's moments that it is. There's moments when it's incredible, obviously, but hanging on to the simplicity of it and emotionally, continuing to feel yet deal with that is very, very difficult. And that was a moment of reflection, I think, at that point.
For sure. I mean, obviously, you mentioned Tony Adams, was it?
Well, Tony set up Sporting Chance, incredible, 25 years ago now.
Right.
When he came out with his addiction issues, it was incredible what he's done there, the legacy he's left, the amount of athletes that have come through there now. But now I believe the shift is really, it used to be all footballers, 3-4 at a time, and now I think that rugby league, jockeys, it's all kinds going in there. And it's very much, it's not just alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling. It's everything. You could be addicted to overthinking, spending. It's everything. Now there's a big snooze epidemic in football, another addiction. So, incredible thing he's done there.
No, definitely, and it helps so many people as well, doesn't it? Particularly, I think people have a perception of professional footballers, and it's like, oh well, it must be so easy for them because they're on X amount a week and they're doing what they love. But it's not. It's not like that, is it?
Well, no, I think. Look, I mean, the job I've done for the last 14 years, we can go into that because the level of depth I've got into all this stuff, which I'm now teaching at degree level and everything for the PFA. You want it to be that simple, right? And I've got 4 kids and I've got 3 daughters. And I look at my little boy, he's 6. He'll do whatever he does. But, I watch him kick a ball around the garden. I think that's all it ever was. And that's all it ever should be. And as a fan, I absolutely get that. Well, surely that's incredible, right? You're with that ball. Now someone's going to give you... I remember, we all relate to this, right? You play football Sunday. It's a Sunday team for your kid.
Yeah.
The first dream was have your name on your shirt, right? I was like, shit, if you get your name on your shirt, that's the next first one. Then it's like, if you could ever play in a goal with a decent net on it, that was the next one. Well, actually, probably that one was first. And wow, if you could ever play on a pitch that was any good without holes in it, and a stadium, and then you get paid, and so all of this starts happening.
Yeah.
And it should be that simple, but for some people it is, look, but I think the truth is it's rare that it is. Even the ones who are saying it is, I think they're denying it.
No, definitely.
So just in terms of talking about, starting your career at Norwich City, how did your time there shape your early development? I'd say both as a player and a person.
Well, it's a great question. I think hugely strongly. I think what Norwich had created at that point, growing up around here, when there wasn't Norwich was 2 hours away from me, but Tottenham had run, Luton was down the road, who were constantly badgering me. But I, 10 years of age, but Norwich's pathway to the first team at that point, and still today, it was clear and obvious at that point. It was the brilliant run with Jeremy Goss and the Bayern Munich game. That was about that time for me. Norwich's pathway to the first team was incredible. Their youth setup was incredible, and it was run by incredible people. Gordon Bennett, head of all that, was the way he ran all that was unbelievable. I mean, the man lived, sleep, eat, breathe football. And I know at his funeral many players turned up. So I think it shaped me incredibly well. There was a brilliant sense of discipline at Norwich. Right. It was strong. The discipline was strong. You couldn't get away with anything. Played great football. Everything was built on passing the ball. All of it. Yeah, I think it shaped me hugely. You're there from 10 years of age. So, yeah, very grateful for that, for all of it.
No, definitely. And I think, it's clear to see, isn't it, the amount of players that came through during that time. You mentioned some of them like Craig Bellamy and Rob Green.
But then the year above us, 2 years above us, Adi Akinbaye, Jamie Kurt and Danny Mills. So
it's a phenomenal line of players there that have all gone on to have very good careers as well, and not just at the higher levels, or the lower levels as well. I think people forget about that, and I think that's testament, I think, to the work that Norwich did and actually still do. I think
still do
exactly.
And I think that's a massive feather in our cap, because there's even nowadays you look at the likes of Max Aarons and Jamal Lewis, both local to where we are, Drew.
Well, ironically, my brother then went in and ran the academy at Norwich for 7-8 years. Drewe Broughton. So Greg.
I didn't realise he was your brother.
Greg's my older brother. He's now at Chicago Fire, director of football. He's out in America. So.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
again,
it was ironic when Greg went there. I was like, I was retired by that point, and it was like, I was going around to my brother's on a Sunday, and he had always had his Norwich tracksuit, and he'd come from a game, just come from Colney, and I used to sit there and just observe it silently and go, this is crazy how this is all played out. He was telling me about Max. I got Max Aarons on the 15s and 14, and you're just smiling, taking you back to all those moments,
Oh, brilliant. No, funny enough, I've met Greg a few occasions when I used to work at the football centre in Luton. Greg used to bring, he used to book pictures with me for the academy at Luton. So know Greg quite well. He's a great guy, and I was really pleased when he went to Norwich because I knew what he would bring, and he did. He brought that, that passion and the that passion that we seem to find in towns like Luton, and sort of manifested that at Norwich, and it was superb to see what he did. I didn't realise he's your brother. I mean, I should have made the link.
He is, yeah. People often go, I can't believe, because he's, it's quite well thought. Well, he's very well thought of in the industry in terms of his roles of, now he's gone into director of football at Blackburn for the last few years, and now gone out to America, but Bodo Glint in Norway after Norwich, but he's incredible at what he does. So this was another moment in rehab. You're looking back, going, well, why am I here? My brother's there. My little brother sold his company for millions at 26. Like my mum raised us all with his strong discipline, work ethic, mentality. Yeah. So it was a really interesting journey. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So, question 3: breaking into the first team at Norwich must have been a challenge. I mean, what did you learn about resilience and dealing with pressure during that time?
Well, it's funny. I teach these words today, so I need to reflect on that before I answer. What did I learn about resilience? I didn't learn anything at Norwich about my debut. Didn't give me resilience. It was my upbringing gave me resilience. My mum, I was brought up where my mum was an incredibly, and still is, an incredibly strong woman. I mean, I look at the last 2 years. She's had a brain tumour, stroke.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Well, no, I know it's terrible, but you can't keep her in hospital. She takes the leads out, goes out. She's walking her dogs 15 miles within 2 days.
My dad was the same. He used to have.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, I don't know if Morgan's dropped off there.
Operation of which
he was going to.
No, I'm still here. Sorry, my phone went. Sorry, guys. So I know what you mean. Like they just want to keep on going, right?
Yeah. So she wouldn't allow any pity or sympathy. That's not her style. She's like, no, well, what are we doing here? What have we got to do? We're getting 5 days in here. We'll be out, and we're sitting there going. But it is in those moments you go to your thing about resilience. I'm like, well, okay, it's starting to make sense now. If you're brought up around that, it's. But then, of course, so you're brought up around. You get up and you go again, and you work harder, and that's what I try and do as a parent. There's no time for sympathy here. I don't. With my kids, they fall over, they smash their knees up, and I don't ever run over and get them off a slide. And I've had arguments in the park with parents. You leave him, he's fine. Come on, let's get up. Any blood in your bones, we're good. Let's go. And it is because I know, having spent a life in football, you've got to go again. Yeah. Another game in 2 days' time. There's no time. We've got to lick our wounds and we've got to get out again. So I think I was brought up in that, and of course, then you go into football where I think you're learning subconsciously. There's no time. There's someone wanting to take your shirt. You've got to keep reacting. But I do think I'm very grateful to what I was brought up in around that. I think my mum shaped that mentality for sure.
No, definitely. I think that's a fair point, and I think as well as that, I think we look at sort of a recent example is there's 2 players that I want to mention here. So Lucien Mahovo, who made his debut on Saturday for Norwich, and then we've got a player called Ben Crescene. They both play in the same position. So I suppose the roundabout long question I've got here is, how did Lucien Mahovo, perhaps how do you think he dealt with that pressure of first team debut, first start for Norwich in front of 25,000 Norwich fans? And then equally, how do you think Ben Crescene dealt with the fact that actually, he's lost his place to this young man, but can he get back in? So there's 2 double-ended question.
Funny enough, the debut, I'll go back to my debut at Palace. You're young, you're excited, and a week later I made my full debut and scored at Wolves. So I there was nerves, but I think everything you've done from age 8 is to build up to that moment. So
yeah,
I think I look back and think, how did I play that well? I can't, because all of a sudden 3 years later I'm overthinking the shit out of everything. That seemed really easy. I think you're just desperate to be there. It's exciting. Your family are there, and yes, there's nerves, but there's nerves from under 13s. You want to play well, so that never goes. I think it's fairly effortless at that point, even though there's natural fear of failure, which is good to have. And the guys come out the team. Well, now you're in. Now you've got to sit there, and you got to, and that goes on to the day you retire. There's always competition, younger players coming in, older players. So it's a constant process of, there's many ways of dealing with it. You can shut your emotions down, or you can go, okay, I've got to come again here. Work harder, wait for your opportunity, take it. It's all it ever is.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in such a specialised position, I suppose, on the pitch at left back, where especially nowadays you're expected to get up the pitch a little bit more than you are to defend sometimes, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure.
It's such a specialised position.
Well, I've worked with players over the years in that position, and remember I was working with an outstanding young player at Arsenal who's playing for England under 21s or 18s, England under 19s at that point, but he lost his way a little bit, and I got a call like I often do these days from the agent, or look, is there something? And I remember speaking to this young fullback, and what are you working on? What are they saying you need to improve on? He said, my decision making. I don't know why. It used to be really good. And I said, well, what are you doing to work on that? Well, they're out there and with a bag of balls after training. It's like, okay, well, you got the ball there at fullback. What are your decisions? And there's a ball in there. There's a pass in there. There might be that one there. I said, that sounds complicated. I said, what did you do at under 15? He said, well, do you know what's funny? And his dad interviewed. He goes, he used to pick it up and he'd be on the edge of their box playing 1-2. Said, where's that guy gone?
Yeah.
Well, now you don't really want to be giving the ball away, do you? I said, oh, shit, here we go. Here we go. And it all starts to get lost at that point. Whereas the Bellingham and the top ones, they don't listen to many people. They know who they are and they don't deviate, and the coaches have to fall in line with them. They don't fall in line with coaches. It works the other way around. No, and that's what I witnessed with Craig Bellamy. That was a single difference with Bellas and anybody else. There was no listening to coaches or managers. He would do his way, and the managers would go, okay, shit, well, you keep playing well and scoring, I better shut up. And it can be done with humility. It doesn't have to be always as brash as that, but you need to know who you are, and you need to stay, because everyone will try and change you and move you and put more thought in your head. So you need to stay who you are.
I think that's the sign of a great manager, though, isn't it? Being able to identify those types of players that they know can win them a game, and they probably don't need to coach them as much because of that natural ability, natural talent, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so I think that's feather in the cap of whoever was manager at the time of Bellas, for sure. Morgan, over to you.
Cool. I mean, you touched on talking about playing for Norwich when you were sort of very, very young. I guess, how did the Norwich fan base, which is, let's face it, very, very fervent, so how did the passionate Norwich fan base and expectations of playing for the club with such a history impact you? Was it impactful at all?
Oh, I have to go back and remember. No, you're just excited to play as a young player. I think, like I say, to get the opportunity to play in the first team, it's all you've ever dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
And I grew up, probably my first ever game I went to was it was my 8th birthday, Luton Liverpool, top of Division 1. Liverpool won 4-1 on the AstroTurf at Luton, Dalglish and all that playing. So I grew up at Kenilworth Road, which it's an interesting place to go, right? I mean, so, you start to look at football fans and, yeah, it's great. You want that. You want, that's what you crave, where people care that much. I think that's why football's such an incredible thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Jez said earlier, it can be, but I also think it can be a bit of a double-edged sword.
It can.
We know that. I mean, but back in when you started out, there wasn't such a thing as social media. So I imagine, like, just this sort of expounding on that a little bit. Do you come across any sort of cases where you have to address that kind of social media presence?
Of course. I mean, it can't be ignored, can it? Like you said, I didn't even when I retired. When did the iPhone come out? 2008. I retired in 2000. When did I retire? 2010, 11. So I didn't really. There was no iPhone. So yeah, working with the amount of players I've worked with in the last decade, you have to acknowledge, of course, social media is huge. I mean, back then when we were playing, you're looking in the local paper, or the Sun for your match mark on a Monday morning. So even that was, got 6. And now getting destroyed on social media. brutally hard. I can't begin to imagine how hard that is. But at the end of the day, what choice do you have? It's not going anywhere. We have to find a way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these who think everything should be banned. And no, because now you're going to ban everything in life. We have to find a way of dealing with it and accepting it. And that's certainly a word I work on heavily with players, is acceptance.
Yeah.
Not denial. We have to accept it. You have to understand why. Really hard.
I think there's an element of disassociation with the comment section and almost like we've talked about resilience. I love this kind of talk, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed. But like I think that there's a level of kind of like just skimming over it and letting it sort of wash off your back, as it were, rather than falling into the trap of letting it kind of get to you as a personal thing. I think the reality is, and Jez will probably attest this as well. Me and Jez regularly post on the Pinkin forum, and sometimes you see people write comments and it's quite can be quite personal. But then, could you imagine having that being like that in real life, going up to a random stranger and going, "No. You're shit."
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, thanks, guy. Like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah. It's not going to go anywhere, and that's where I go with players. It's not going to go anywhere, and there is a grave danger without going too deep. But then you're taking away all free speech, and I know it gets controversial because you look at what Elon Musk has done at X. But staying away from all that, I'm not a fan. It's acceptance. It's the world. It's society. We're still very blessed. We're paid well. You get a great job. You've got to accept people. In my work today, the last 5 years, I've been working with a lot of coaches and head coaches all over the world, America and here in England. And part of the thing with the coaches, the fans are booing me and the fans want me out. I said, well, I'd want you out. You keep losing games. I'm here for you, but can we now get to the truth?
Yeah.
Why is that even a thing? Why are we not accepting that? The national average wage is 30 grand a year. You get paid a shit ton more than that. There's a price to pay for that.
Yeah.
And we have to, if you can accept it, everything lightens in you. But if you're fighting it and I can't believe this, you just stay in this cycle of, do you know what I mean? It's got to try and work through it. But it's not easy. Not easy at all.
It's a mind. It's definitely, I think, I've been in therapy for a number of years, and it's about it's basically knocking down yourself and then rebuilding. I know that sounds a bit whimsical, but that's how I've experienced it: is unlearning these trappings in your mind, and then kind of building back up again.
Going back to the root of who you are, which was my experience back then in 2011. Who are you at a core level? And then you have to understand what that brings. I mean, I know they do psychometric testing now. Are you red or yellow or green? And once you understand those traits, you can't deviate from them. But I'm also very conscious in my work today. And look, the business has grown, and we've got coaches who work for the business, but we're performance coaches. But I've got guys who work for me who've been a therapist for 15 years, and we're going, look, I'm working in therapy, and I've worked with athletes, and we needed to build a group of coaches who could deliver this message that we teach. But the shift from therapist to performance coach, and that's where I have to take them on our education, because at some point I say to them as a therapist, I'm listening, but I'm going to tell you now, we got to go here. There's a fucking mountain there, and if you don't climb it, your whole world's going to collapse. I have to help you navigate that, but it's in performance. Do you know what I mean? So that there has to be a toughness to that. Unfortunately, is what it is. Football is that,
and it's not instant either, is it?
No.
And I think the trouble with today, we have an impatience, and I certainly had an impatience. I was like, I'll do a little bit of therapy for 6 weeks, and I'll be fine. And I'm not a professional sports person, so. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. I think there's such a brutality to the biggest thing about professional sport, and I know there's pushback, I see a lot of it on Marcus Rashford at the moment, and I just won't sign up I don't sign up and I won't sign up because I won't talk about the clients I work with, but I've worked with lads at United, Chelsea, Arsenal, everything at the highest level. I've gone out and worked with the US national team. I've just come back from Florida for 2 weeks working with, Major League Baseball players, NFL. Like, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. Their sofa's worth 80 grand, mine's worth $1,000 from DFS. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, there's a desire in these guys to win and to be the best they can be. It can overwhelm them, their own drive at times. Stick on top of that expectation outside. I want to say, hey, shit, I'm scared here. I'm scared I'm not good enough. There's 90,000 people. Can I keep doing it? There's no place to feel. So you've got to keep bouncing into game to game to game. So it's just, there has to be a place to feel and to all of this stuff. But it's not soft. And I think that's the problem. People think, well, if you're going to go this route, it becomes a soft thing. It's the opposite of soft. It's really tough. Start looking at yourself emotionally. I mean, I know what it's like to be really physically fit. And that's easy compared to, to be able to get your resting heart rate to 30 beats a minute, just smash the bleep test to run 13 Ks, no problem. Really, compared to emotionally being strong, it's a lot tougher.
Don't know which coach said it, but there's certainly a coach out there that said, a lot of the football that gets played is, it's all very well being strong and being physically a good player, but a lot of it's in your mind, isn't it?
All of it, yeah. And I know that because I've experienced it, And I think for me, being a 6'3" target man who apparently in the lower leagues was considered tough. I mean, I don't know what that means. I mean, I'll put my head in anywhere and I'll take hits. But beyond that, emotionally, I always think about Grant Holt, because if you look at Grant, and he went on to Norwich with Gunny, signed him, I think, in League One at that time.
Yeah.
At that point around League One, League Two, there was myself, him, Ricky Lambert.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, would have been the three top target men around that, and those guys go on and get to the top level, and I didn't. All I realised about that is it's nothing to do with toughness. It's nothing to do with talent. I'm a sensitive guy, which means I overthink and I feel deeply. But it makes me a very creative player. Because if you look at those two guys, they didn't break onto the scene at 17, 18 like I did. So there was a talent in me that was high, but there's a sensitivity in me that's high. I thought I was a weirdo. 14 years of doing this, working with lads playing for England who were telling me the same thing. I'm thinking, shit, no, this is the norm, actually. The more creative the player, the deeper they think. So, yeah, interesting. Go for ages on this subject. It'd be a whole different podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to take you off tangents. Sorry.
No, not at all.
That's what we enjoy. We enjoy tangents.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose sort of next question then really, I noticed you were born in Hitchin, and we've obviously discussed some of your Luton watchings, I suppose you want to call it. Did you attend any games at Hitchin Town? Obviously, they're also called the Canary, so we like Hitchin on this podcast.
We do. I didn't attend any games there. No, I played there for Norwich, I think.
Okay. In
a pre-season game.
Mm-hmm.
Reserve game, I think, and then I played there for Luton in a pre-season game at the end of my career. So I never watched them. No, never watched them.
No, I mean Luton. As you know, I live in Nebworth in Hertfordshire, so I've been to watch Hitchin a few times this season. I quite like any form of non-league football. I absolutely love.
Yeah, it's a throwback, isn't it? It's still a throwback.
Oh, absolutely. But the point I was going to make is obviously Luton. I know they go there every year, so that very relatively close, isn't it? But yeah, I suppose so. When you were growing up, obviously you've already mentioned Luton. Was there any other clubs that you watched in the area?
No. I think because three boys and a single mum, it's difficult for her to take. But my dad was still living around. I think he moved to America, would work then. But at that point, he was still around, so he'd take me to Luton. So yeah, but no, just Luton.
Who were the sort of the standout players back then when you were following them?
I went to the cup finals against Arsenal and Forest. Both of those. So you got Mick Harford and Mal Donaghy, Tim Breaker. Yeah.
Amazing.
Ricky Hill, loads of players, yeah.
The plastic pitch at Luton.
Plastic pitch, orange ball. It's shocking, isn't it? It just seems like 100 years ago, that.
They're just about to move. Well, I say just about to. It's probably going to be about 3 or 4 years down the line, but they were moving to a new stadium in Power Court.
35 years in the build. That one. I remember the Cola Dome that was going to get built by the M1. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, Morgan.
I mean, we've touched on this briefly. I mean, you've talked about fear and anxiety in high performance environments. How did you handle these emotions during your football career? I guess particularly with an emphasis on Norwich, because I mean you've had an expansive career. So if we focus on Norwich, that would be good.
I remember I played 10 games in the first team at the end of my YTS year, and was coming back then. That summer, it was clear who was manager. Martin Neal had really earmarked me. He was there temporarily, of course. He left, and then Bruce Rioch came in. And I just remember then, making those 7, 8, 9 games in the first team, 10 games, whatever it was. It was then it started to hit me that I knew they were signing Ewan Roberts that summer. Obviously, they were going to sign a senior centre forward. They had to. I'm a young kid who really hadn't. But I remember then it was like you're out of the comfort almost of the youth game, and you're into the first team dressing room, having to earn your stripes there against senior players. How I dealt with that fear was over control. It's when it started for me. So all the OCD issues would begin then. And I've learned since that perfectionism has its roots in fear.
Right.
The problem was people would go, what a great pro. He's in early. But if you actually stop me and go, do you need to be doing this session? No. So, more gym, cleaner diet. Anyone who could sell me a solution, I'm buying it. I mean, it was ridiculous. Anything that would. If you gave me an elastic band and said, "Rip that, put that around your wrist," it's 3,000 quid, and it will give you your form. I'm buying that, no problem. So, I think I dealt with the unconscious fear, and it was unconscious because if you'd have said to me, "You're scared," I wouldn't have known it as fear. I wouldn't have been able to label it. I'm scared. I'd have just gone, "No, I'm okay. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right." So I would never. I didn't know the word fear really, but yeah.
Would you say there's a difference between those two words?
Well, fear and anxiety.
Yeah. Fear and being scared, I suppose.
Well, to say I am scared is fear, because if you say I'm scared of a snake or I'm scared of I don't like spiders, but I'm scared of a spider, well, that's a fear of spiders. So no, they're the same thing. What I learned about anxiety, which was been incredible. Again, you're teaching all these things today, but anxiety means extreme discomfort with uncertainty. That's what anxiety means. So who hasn't got extreme discomfort with uncertainty? I mean, we all have. Yeah. So some are more prone to that. And if you look at football, this is why it's so heightened. Anxiety, uncertainty, the whole industry is steeped on it. And it shouldn't change. It's what it is, right? It's like everything's uncertain. Everyone needs the 3 points. Only 11 can play. The manager knows these days he's probably got 6 games. If you lose 6 in a row, you're on the ropes. Yeah. Everything is so heightened in the uncertainty, which is anxiety.
Yeah.
What I've seen it transmit to in football is over control. And that's where all the creativities come out of the game. For me, everybody's over controlling the shit out of everything. I mean, it's absolute carnage out there. You can measure absolutely everything. And don't get into the tactics, and then you'd be breaking that down for 6 weeks. And I've worked with many coaches now. That is one of the first things I do. Do you need to be having this many meetings? Yeah. But you always say it privately with them, and they know you've played, and they've played, and you're just having a really intimate, good conversation around what is all of this. And oftentimes the coach will go, "Yeah, I'm fucking terrified, and I need to win the next 2." And then they see the link between the hour-long training sessions, the set-piece detail, and all the detail. It's a fine line. I'm not saying you have no detail and you go back to 1970, just play long ball and all go to the pub. It's not that. That's ridiculous. But there has to be a middle line somewhere.
I think you're right. I think now, especially nowadays, it's very manufactured, isn't it? And I mean, I spent some time working at Stevenage Football Academy in the admin team, but you could see, you know, what the coaches were trying to do there, and how they were trying to, you know, and at the end of the day, the end goal was having a footballer that could come off the production line that they could sell to a Championship club or a Premier League club. Like a guy called what's the lad called that went to Jamal Lascelles? I think he was only on loan there. But he obviously went through that system, and a lad that went on to Watford, that his name escapes me, Ben someone. But you know, you could just see these players and they're really, you know, keen to sort of have this product at the end of it, where they could go, right, well, this is what's going to keep the club afloat for the next, you know, 5-10 years. And I guess my question or sort of sum up of that is you know, that's, you've got someone of natural ability that is, you know, a tricky winger almost, that's just going to take it around 4 or 5 players, but that almost gets coached out of them, doesn't it, to have this end product?
Yeah, it does.
I think I think that it's funny because I keep, like, every time you talk about this, and I watched it recently, but there was an episode with my girlfriend, there's an episode of Ted Lasso, and he talks about, I can't remember, he brings the current captain out to play in an area of West London where he grew up, and he said football was just about having fun, remember that. And I just keep thinking of this when you keep talking about it, Drew, and I just keep thinking of it's about having fun, not over complicating it.
It is, and look, there's not a player out there, and I'll be in. Well, what day is Wednesday today, so Thursday I'm up in Manchester, and I'll stick with 3 players tomorrow, and they're all Premier League guys. Dinner and meet a couple after training. It'll be at the house, or we go for a restaurant, and that is all we're trying to find. But how do you find fun? Because it goes, and it's not a given. It's there as a kid, the spontaneity and the joy and the creativity. But what I've started to understand, and Dr. Pippa Grange, who I don't know if have you seen either of you guys seen the Dear England theatre production?
No, not yet.
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Well, it was fascinating. I think they're doing it. It was that successful. I went to before it finished, but I think they're doing another thing.
Oh wow!
Serrano Fiennes plays Gareth Southgate. It's brilliant. And it's on that first 2-3 years at England. And there's a lady, Dr. Pippa Grange, who I've spoken to. Pippa, she's written a brilliant book called Fear Less, and she was at the Right to Dream project out in Africa and running all that, which is an incredible project. They creation of players they get, but the first 40 minutes of that theatre production on Southgate was her relationship with him.
Right.
And her big thing is fear is the biggest thief. It steals joy, creativity, fun. So it would be great to go, people go, well, what do these players need you for? Because to get back to, they got 2 days before a game, as a performance coach, they pay me. I have to get them performing somewhere near their best. And that, I want them to be going down the tunnel on match day, going, yes, I have to play well. Yes, there's 3 people waiting to take my shirt. Yes, all of that, crowd, all of it, social media. But for fuck's sake, can I just find the courage to fucking go and be me today? That is all it is.
Yeah.
But it's a journey to get to that courage, because there's so many layers of, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
The ones who can keep it fun, they're the best in the world. They're all at Real Madrid, and because they genuinely can keep that smart. But that's not a given.
No,
not a given.
I think that, like, for listeners at home, like, you know, the way that you can sort of frame it as well, like, and you'll have to excuse this is a crude example, but you're going on a date and with someone, and you know, you both have spouses or girlfriends or whatever. The reason why you guys work is because they allow you to be themselves, and you know, to be yourself, and you allow them to be themselves. Like, that's why you get on, you know, and I think that is a fairly crude example, but you know, you can be yourself, you can express what you think, you can be an idiot, you can make silly voices or do funny things. And I think that is why, you know, there's a lot of, you're quite successful, or you can be successful in life if you allow yourself to be yourself.
It's absolutely right. And if you look at any of the great philosophers or they'll all say it's a return to self. It's just the child state. Anybody, it's just remaining that. And I often, what do you give all these people you work with? I did work in business now, and nothing. I can't add anything to anybody. I've just got to remove everything to reveal themselves, and they have to have the courage to step into that. And it is courage. I mean, the amount of ex-players I've sat with who've gone into management, and I think about some of them have been, I don't want to give too much away, but a couple of the guys I've sat with have been some of the great players that England have produced. They didn't, and they kept that spontaneity and creativity at the highest level of the game. But now they're a manager, they've got to understand how they did that, because there's a load of players looking at them going, go on then, because you had it all. How do you do that? And it's not because you can do this pass or this technique, or it was courage. It was the courage. Those guys, it was the courage to remain who they were. In the highest pressure, I'm going to be what I was. So if and you look at Jude Bellingham for England in the Euros, Euros last summer, and it was evident, and there was loads coming out of the England camp that Southgate and the staff struggled to manage him. I don't know what the hell that means. Why would you need to manage him?
No, you wouldn't. Yeah.
He's an affable guy. I mean, he's an articulate, smart guy, smart parents, plays at the biggest club in the world. Leave him the hell alone. But technically, tactically, he was breaking structure. There was one clip that I actually used when I'm teaching again. It was England, and we were sitting, and you can see that moment, because I've been there, when he's gone, fuck this, and he just runs past 6 players to press someone, and it triggers the whole thing behind them, and everyone follows, and it goes back to the studio, and Shearer and Lineker, this is what England have worked on, setting the press. I'm like, they haven't set any press. Bellingham's gone, fuck this. What are we doing? And what's more damning and but indicative of the work I do, the ex-players, decorated ex-players in the studio, haven't seen that because they've forgotten that part of themselves. That makes sense.
No, of course.
I was speaking to a player recently. He just played up at Liverpool, and I said, what was the game like? I said, fucking joy. I said, what do you mean? He goes, it was joy to watch Liverpool. And I was in the middle of the game. He said, they were just relentless. You get the ball, they were on you like packs of dogs. And then the minute they got it, there was no real structure, Drew. He said, everyone will go, there wasn't really. There was gaps everywhere, and but it was joyous to be in it. Like a throwback. It was just fucking relentless. Bodies everywhere and people trying things.
It's like when you play football at school, watching 6-year-olds play football where they're all running at the ball together.
And bearing in mind, we're laughing. I said, but you couldn't. And then even senior players. I said, but if you shared this in public, people would think you're mental, and you pull down the whole coaching industry. Because if you think about Liverpool's training ground and the 6 days leading up to that game, you don't think they'd have prepared for the opposition? Of course they would have done. You don't think they'd have had perfect nutrition? Of course they would have done. You don't think they'd have done all the prep? Of course they would have done. But come game time, management, the culture that's created by Klopp, now Slot's taking it on again. It's there, isn't it? It's there. It's there.
Yeah, they're seeing the benefits of that for sure. So just moving on to the follow-up next question. So what inspired your transition from football to fear coaching, and how did your experiences at Norwich or in the rest of your career influence your approach to helping others?
Well, I came out of rehab and I'd studied human movement and biomechanics. So I had a few injuries, and I got pissed off with what I felt was a lack of knowledge with the physios, because I started mates with physios, and as I got an older player, I'm like, well, you've all studied the same degree. None of you are solving any of these issues. And then I'm speaking to my mates at that time who were playing in the Premier League. Same stuff here. So but it was never a blame of the physios. I thought, well, I'm a very inquisitive guy, and I like to challenge. So I was like, what is this degree? So I went to look at it all, and then came across a different way of studying in America with a guy called Gary Gray, who challenged the whole issue on human movement. So I studied for 4.5 years. So I came out of rehab, and luckily I had this qualification. Met a guy on the course who was already had a top gym in London, fixing people's injuries and conditioning. and he was desperate to get into football. So I said, look, I've got an idea. Let's set a business up. I've got about 7 Premier League mates. Let me ring them. They've all got injury issues, reoccurring issues, things they can't shift. And they all gave us their time at their houses and their gyms. And we solved a lot of stuff. And the business started 3 years on. We were working 30 players a week in their houses privately. What happened was after 3 years of doing that, my life really was, I had a business. It was going really well. I rebought a house, got divorced. I had my daughter 3 days a week. My life was really in a strong place. I was setting my bed up, treatment table, before I start working on the guys. And I'm an hour in and we haven't done anything. And they're going, I can't be fucking, I just want to quit. I'm done with it all. And so very quickly, I would start talking back, and players would go, I get so much from these conversations. There's no one else I can talk to like this, Drew. My dad wants to solve everything. My agent did. There's no one at the club I trust. So the guys started paying me for that. So I started to transition away from the physical stuff and wound that down, and then was generating enough money from doing emotional, mental performance coaching. And that started about 2015. I was a performance coach. 2019, a friend of mine who was an incredible business in marketing, big marketing company. We were a social thing, and in London, he said to me, I see what you're doing. You're doing well, Drew. He said, what do you do though? It sounds fucking boring, performance coaching. What is that? And I went, he said, what do you deal with? I said, fear. He said, this is good. I don't see any of that on your website.
Yeah.
He goes, right, I'm coming around next week. I'm going to build a whole new website. I'm going to create all your branding. I said, come on, man. You're busy. He said, no, I need to do this for you. I was like, all right. So he comes around. He said, I'm going to call you the fear coach. I said, fear coach? Said, you can't be. We're English, aren't we? You go to America, which is why I do a lot of stuff out there. Yeah, love it. Fear coach, man. Bring him in. But over here, what is this? We're very reserved, aren't we?
I think very cynical. I think we very cynical towards talking about emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, without going into history too much, but it dates way back to probably the Victorian era. But anyway, sorry, Drew, carry on.
No, well, you're right. And so, that was a transition into the fear coach, let's say, which is just a name for a performance coach. I'm still a human, I'm a human performance coach, what I do. So 2019, a mate of mine was running a Premier League academy. He said to me, what are you doing, mate? What are we not doing? Why are players outsourcing their work to you? I said, well, it's not your fault, mate. You got your pro license and everything else. You're highly qualified, but I've looked at the pro license and the A license. There is zero. There's a psychological module, but it's not. That's kindergarten stuff in terms of really understanding how to solve these issues. So he said, you should help us, mate. I'd love to. Can you help me? I said, okay. He said, you should write something. I said, I don't know about that. He said, you must have a process. I said, not really. He said, you sit down with a player, there'll be a process. I said, we have a chat. And he said, no, there'll be something. And it triggered me. And I sat and I started to write an 8-week course. And I launched that in 2019 for coaches and leaders. Put it on LinkedIn, where I've always enjoyed making content. It just went boom. And I had 15 on the first one and 6 American coaches.
Wow.
And I've done hundreds of coaches now. And that opened up America in 2020. So I started to work with college soccer coaches. They had record seasons. Then that led to baseball, American football. I've just come back probably 5 times a year, and so that's how it all transitioned. I still look after 7 players. I do a year-long thing, so I'm their guy for the season. They ring me when they want. Match days is always pretty heavy. They ring me, or the night before the game, we just have an hour on Zoom. So my wife understands that, even though I'm not playing anymore, Friday night or the game's on Sunday in the Premier League, Saturday afternoon, even though she wants to go with the kids, or Sunday morning, I'm like, look, I've got to do 2 or 3 calls with the guys. So I'll often be in the park with my AirPods in, with the kids. I have to walk over and sit on the bench. So I still do that. But when I wrote this leadership course, what it did was opened up leaders. So that's when the last 2.5 years I've been working with managers, which has been really interesting.
No, it's great. And I think, you touched on it there, I think, but there must be some key times where these people want to communicate with you. I mean, as you said, I think perhaps Friday night, stuff going through their heads about the following game. And as you say, maybe Sunday, they want to kind of like analyse it with you as well. So would you say those are the 2 key times?
They are, but look, I've had guys at Man United ring me from the dressing room.
Wow.
You know, not in this season, so I must say that. But the toilet cubicle whispering. It goes back to Johnny Wilkinson. If you listen to him on the High Performance podcast, when he said he was England captain, he won the World Cup, and he was speed dialing Blackie, his coach from Twickenham, with a baying mob of 80,000 above, and the lads are like, "Where's Johnny for the huddle?" And he's going, "Please tell me I'm good enough. I've got a kick today." And he said, "I was a bag of nerves gone." In the toilet cubicle. So you do get that, a couple of voice notes and various bits, but you'd like to think most of the work is done in the week. And to just keep, my job is just to keep them lead them back to who they are by lifting up all the bricks and blocks that have covered them.
Yeah.
Over instruction, over thinking, over tactics, over. I remember playing
overstimulation.
Well, and just overthinking. I remember playing for Mark Robbins at Rotherham, and I reflect on this a lot. You know, I don't want you. He'd say, "Drew, keep your arms down. Don't give away free kicks. Don't get in fights with the centre half because it gives them a free kick. They can put it in our box." So I'm going onto the pitch going, "Okay, don't give away free kicks. Well, I lose the first 5 headers, then I'm subbed on an hour."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You haven't fucking won anything today." And then I'll be out the team for 6 weeks. And this is in my book that I wrote. Then I'm out the team for the 6 weeks. Well, now I'm really depressed because I don't know why I'm out the team, what's gone on. I'm seeing them all celebrate after the game. I'm running after the game, box to box to the fitness coach. I'm broken, going, what? Then I finally get to a point where I'm like, fuck it, I don't want to feel like this anymore. Fuck it. I'm just going to go in and run around with the lads and fucking train hard and let go of all outcomes. Now I'd play really well. Then he'd put me back in the team and I'd go, he'd go, don't give away fouls. And I'd just go, no problem, boss. Fuck off. Go out there, dominate the centre halves. And he's gone, outstanding today, big man. Whatever you do, keep doing it. The confusion. People go, why'd you go to rehab? I'm like, well, just do that for 17 years. It's insanity. But there's never a point to go, Mark. With now, I'd go to the coach. Working with the coach, I'd sit sometimes, team talk, so they'll tell me what was said. And now I'd sit with Mark and say, Mark, can you accept that at 6'3", being an aggressive centre forward, I will give away free kicks? Can you accept that?
Yeah.
But can you also accept that those 2 or 3 where I wipe out both centre halves and pull it into my chest and flick it into Lafondra at that time and he scores? Do you like that? Do you like that 2 goals that will come?
Yeah.
But there will be fallout.
Yeah.
But it was just his fear. Again, it goes to fear. It was Mark's fear that if they get a free kick, they can launch it in the box.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to him, breathe, Mark. Do you trust me?
Yeah.
Is what you'd say then, now, you know.
And do you trust the defence to deal with it as well? You know, giving away a free kick in that area of the pitch, the defence should be able to deal with it, right?
Come on. Got 2 6'3" inch centre halves. What are they paid to do?
Yeah.
6'5" goalkeeper. What are they doing? And I'll go back and help them.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
Yeah. Sorry, Morgan, I interrupted you.
I was just going to say fear is contagious. I mean, I think that, you know, if one player has a bad game and then it starts to spark a chain reaction, and, you know, like we just saw at the weekend with Swansea, you know, they end up 5-1 down. So it's definitely...
It's unconscious though, Morgan. And I think this is what I need to say, because it's like when you asked me earlier, did you know? I would never have been able to label my feelings as fear. If you'd have said, what are you feeling? I wouldn't have gone fear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had a clue. So, and trust me, hundreds of coaches I've taken through my education. Module 1 is fear and control.
Mm-hmm.
So do you understand that your fear that's buried, you don't know it as fear, is leading to unconscious control, which was Mark Robbins then. He's trying to control me because of an unconscious fear that I need to win the game. Mm. And I'm not judging it. I know all the pressure. I'm not judging anybody or critiquing, but that is the truth. It's still going on today.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It's hard.
So just moving on to the next question. Are you still good for time, by the way?
Okay, yeah, I'm good.
Do you? And I think this is one that I think is really interesting, and I'm sure you can, from your perspective, understand it. But do you think athletes struggle with the transition out of sport? Yeah. And in your example, how did you manage that?
Yes, they all do. It's extremely, extremely tough. Look, there's two things. There's the guys at the top level who've got enough money for 10 lifetimes, right? So and I've sat with many of them. It doesn't make it any easier. It is easier because they have financial security, and you can't underestimate guys like me in the lower leagues who haven't made the money. Yeah. There is you stick financial security with the family on top, insecurity on the top of that. It's terrifying. So there is a difference, but those guys at the top still have a loss of identity, loss of self, loss of purpose. You've been in football from the age of 8, now you're 35. It's really, really difficult. And some never will find that purpose ever again, for sure. And I don't think you ever get over losing the career. I don't buy that. You just, I'll always miss the adrenaline of playing football. Nothing's replaced it. There's nothing in my life has replaced that.
I mean, is there, like, I remember reading about Bradley Johnson, Jez, like he was doing running a part-time course trying to do building. Is that right, or something along those lines?
Yeah, it's like those lines, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is that something that clubs encourage players to do with their downtime, like maybe study or do other things?
Always, that was there. I mean, I remember going and doing, when I played for Rotherham, we went to do a PFA came and the new initiative, and it was electrician and plumbing course. Now I'm there with the greatest respects. I mean, I'm not that guy. I didn't want to be a plumber. But you're trying to. There is a fear you need to do something. I guess I studied. The one thing I did was study injuries and human movement, which led to a career for 3 years. But that was just a passion. I just became tired of being injured and someone going, "Oh, your hamstring's gone again." Scan. Okay, scan shows as a grade 3. Right, we're going to do the same protocol. We've done the protocol 3 times. Yeah. Same injury. And so that it was a passion that led me into, I want to understand my body more.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very blessed that I'm very lucky that I fell into that. But yeah, really difficult. Really, really, really difficult. And the PFA have always been magnificent. They get a hard rap. They really do. I mean, all the education that I've done, which is nearly £30,000 worth, they pay over 50%. So the PFA took my course because it was going so well, and I got a call. They've launched a new business school 2 years ago, linked up with Portsmouth University. They've created 4 or 5 degrees, and they've got a groundbreaking degree for scholars now. It's a 3-year degree. Arsene Wenger's headed it in the degree in the industry of football. And it's an incredible initiative. It's been going 6 months now. So you've got a load of young pros on it, 18 to 21. They come out with a fully first-class honours in degree in the industry of football, studying every aspect, CEO level down to management, player, injuries, all of it. So, yeah, but it doesn't make any of it any easier, because at the end of the day, why do fans pack stadiums even when there's a recession? Because we all love the game.
Yeah.
And that love can't be replaced.
No, absolutely. I'm just looking at actually in my room now. I've got a book here by Paul McVeigh, "The Stupid Footballer Is Dead."
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a funny title, but actually it's a really insightful book, isn't it? About the mind of a professional footballer and what they do after their career as well. I think he talks a lot about that as well. And I don't know, do you do much work with Paul? And
I know Paul. I know he was at Norwich. I mean, lads have said to me that he was doing. I know I was a player, but afterwards he had a business for someone that I think it was Mindspan or something, and he's gone on doing great work. Yeah, I mean, it's
yeah, definitely. That's really.
I think there's far more sensitive, and people say, "Oh, these days players are more sensitive," and I think that's nonsense. The reason there was so many addictions, and when you understand about addiction, all the drinking cultures and all the issues that lied in the 80s and 90s, is because there were sensitive guys then, but there was no place to do any of this stuff back then. So you just keep drinking and doing whatever you're doing.
Of course.
What you learn about addiction recovery is, they always say in AA, and I'm not an alcoholic, but I've been around all those different addiction fellowships, and it's always the same thing. If drink was the problem, stop drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Drink's not the problem; it's your feelings, and you're drinking to numb your feelings. So you're smoking to numb your feelings. You're overtraining. I was overtraining to numb my feelings. So it's really, it all goes back to, is there a space to get really honest and say, hey, look, this is what it is.
No, absolutely. So last couple from us. Explain the nature of vulnerability in your coaching, and how did embracing vulnerability affect your career on the pitch?
Brilliant question. I was just going there then, and I put the brakes on. I didn't embrace vulnerability when I was a player. I embraced the opposite, which is invincibility. So my module, vulnerability versus invincibility. I embraced invincibility. If I can stand in the tunnel and know I've outworked everybody, my body's ripped, leaner, stronger, nutrition's better, I'm trying to make myself invincible. Mm-hmm. What I learned in rehab was, how's that worked out for you, Drew? You're here and you've lost everything, even though you were this great pro. That was a really incredible moment, because what was the truth? The truth was I was vulnerable. You're vulnerable to critique. You're vulnerable to not scoring. You're vulnerable to breaking your leg. You're vulnerable to everything. You've got no control over anything. No. And I looked back on the 5%. I always say, and I shared it last week with these baseball guys. We sat there in the hitting cage, and I sat there talking to them, and I asked them a simple question. I said, in nearly 600 games, I probably had 5% of those. So what are we talking? 30 games was I the player that I know I am. 8 or 9 out of 10. That guy, it was effortless. I'd link the play. I'd hardly give it away. I'd dominate in the air. I'd score goals. That was what I did as a kid. 5% of a pro career. And here I am now. Some of these young baseball stars, 21 years of age. I'm 46. A 25-year difference. Not one of them had more than 15% of the season just gone where they were at their level. And the agent was there. He's like, "What do we mean, guys?" I needed to take him for a drink. I said, "You okay?" He said, "I can't believe that my clients aren't playing better than 10% of the season." I said, "Well, isn't that great for us? We can get it. If we can get that quadrupled this season, how much money are you going to make?" So, there was no space to be vulnerable. So vulnerability, I have learned, and Brené Brown is the thought leader in this space. Vulnerability is the gateway to courage. That you cannot get to courage without vulnerability. So with the players that I work with, they have to tell me their fears going into the game. I'm scared of getting absolutely destroyed on social media again. Okay, next. Because they always start, I'm okay. I'm fear of not playing well. And then you go, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Like, come on, deeper. Let's go. All of a sudden, there's a list of 9 things. Yeah. And there's a deep breath. And then there's silence. I'm like, are you any good? Yeah, I'm a pretty good player. Okay. You've been here before, hundreds of times. Okay. So you can't control any of that. We've got to be vulnerable and admit that's the truth. Now can we find the courage to go and be you? So it's this, vulnerability is a game changer. And it's not oversharing, and it's not crying uncontrollably. I get managers now go, "Do you think I should be vulnerable with the lads?" I'm like, I'm not sure you should ring them and tell the chairman's rung you and told you've got 2 games. I don't think that's the one. I've had it. No, I've had it. I've had it so many managers. But they have to be vulnerable. But the vulnerability is not, it's a fine line, right? I think it's just, the vulnerability is probably for a manager to go, "Look, guys, not one of us has got any idea how the next 90 minutes is going to go. We're all fucking terrified. I need to win. You need to play well. Goalkeeper needs to keep a clean sheet. Centre forwards think you've got 3 guys on the bench. Can we just laugh at all of it? It's never going to change. There when you were 12, it's going to be there when you're 36.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
But we've been here a million times. We're good. We've got to outrun them, outfight them, get on the ball, play, give it away, keep giving it away, no problem. Get it again. Don't hide. Do you know what I mean? So it's, yeah.
I think that's the thing as a professional. I mean, I can't put myself in this situation. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have been. But, I think, there must be so many different avenues of fear, I suppose, because you've got your manager shouting all the odds. You've got your teammates on the bench that want your place on the team. You've got 25,000 fans behind you that you've made
an honest quickly. They'll turn quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And you make honest efforts, and no one goes on the pitch and plays. Well, maybe there is some people, but I think the vast majority of footballers don't go on that football pitch and play poorly, on purpose. They're going on there because they want to perform, they want to get better, they want to help their teammates out.
I'm so glad you've said that, because if you take Marcus Rashford and all the abuse he's getting, do you think Marcus Rashford wakes up and goes, "Do you know what I'd love today more than anything? To really fail at Old Trafford, 6 million people globally, and humiliate? That would be amazing." No, and he's not lazy. You don't get to where he is by being lazy. Have you seen his body fat? You only have to go on his Instagram and see how hard the guy trains. He's doing extra sessions, and it's terrifying. And he's blocking his emotions and feelings. And he's going out Old Trafford, and now he's numb. And when you're numb, it will play out physiologically. You won't be able to run. So there's no space to go. Yeah, let's just accept all this fear. I normalize it.
I think that's a really good point. I mean, one of the reasons why I was fairly crap at football growing up was because I overthought everything. And you know, when you're young, when you're a kid, and you're sort of growing up in a small town, and you're trying to play your best, and kids are cruel, and they give you stick. And then you start overthinking everything, because you're like, if you're like you said earlier, you're sensitive to what's going on around you. You're making crap passes, you're making poor decisions, and like you said, if you're stressed, then that comes through physiologically as well. So I think it's a really good point.
What was great? Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's brilliant, because what I learned the work of Gabor Mate when you feel traumatized, you're that kid there who's not playing well, and it starts the mocking and the whatever. You have to go to thinking to solve it. So that's where this addiction to thinking. My biggest addiction was thinking.
Yeah.
So it wasn't it wasn't anything else really. It was, and I didn't realize it was a reaction to fear, unconscious fear, and I go to my head to solve it. Rather than going, I'm terrified. Okay, all right. Well, can you run? Can you fail? Can you wait for that first open goal that you miss? Can you? There was no space for any of that conversation. So I just stay in my thinking and ride the wave for 17 years until you collapse at the end of it. And I think the game fuels thinking today. I think that's what it's just you go into any of these. Norwich is a Premier League setup. You go into Colney or any of these training grounds, it's a hive of thinking. Because of the transition into sports science. What is science? Science is to find the answer. But there is no answer on that piece of grass. It's why we all love it. It's life played out on that grass. There's no answers. No one's got any idea how it's going to go.
No.
You can have all the science in the world. It counts for nothing out there, really.
No, definitely.
That's interesting.
So I guess the final sort of question before I do my random question of the week, which Jez loves every week. Looking back, what's the one piece of advice you'd give your younger self when you started out at Norwich?
One piece. It'd be difficult to give one piece, but I think don't even saying that, because I my next question back to myself was, how do you do that? Don't buy into too much shit. Just stay who you are. Run and give the ball away, and never hide, and keep doing it. That's it. And just keep running. You got to understand. It would be in every game. You've got to go look. I say to players, they look for suffering. Go and suffer voluntarily. Suffer. Get out of breath. Blow out your ass. Go. I worked with. Funny enough, I'll say this now. I worked with a player at Norwich. He just came to me about 4 years ago, and I obviously won't mention his name. And he was losing himself. A very creative player. Overthinking everything, positional sense. The manager then was quite strong on, tactical positioning, and it wasn't serving him. He wasn't playing well. He was on the bench because of it, and he was lost. And then he's depressed, and he's at home. I don't know where my form's gone. Nowhere near the team. And I said, well, what are the instructions? Sit in there and block that hole. So I'm thinking about the holes and the gaps and supporting when we lose the ball. And I said, you've got to fuck all that off. You know what I mean? I said, look, you're paying me. Norwich aren't paying me. You're paying me. So I only have a duty to you. And I'm telling you to ignore every single thing your manager's told you, because this is going back to the Mark Robbins story. And I've had many managers since. I said, break the shape and fucking run after people and hunt that ball back. Yeah. And if you have to run after 4 people, watch the roar from the crowd and fucking do it again. And I'm telling you what will happen. Your manager, you might even get a brilliant, well done, the clap, because he's so fucked in the moment and the result. He just needs something. He doesn't know what it is. Go and do that. And when you get the ball, he was great running with the ball. I said, run with it. Get at people. Don't pop it off. Commit. Give it away. Get it again. So just wanted to strip it all back, you know? And sure enough, he did that. Had a great run in the team. Managers all over him. And he just goes, how do you know all this stuff? I said, I had to pay quite a price to understand it. It's very simple, this game.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you'd have the people out there going, what are you saying? No structure. And no, I'm not saying no structure. There's a balance.
Oh, of course. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's it. I think there's got to be a time where that player knows to go and do what the manager says, but equally, as you quite rightly point out,
he's a 26-year-old player. You know, I'd learned everything about football by 18. As a centre forward, I knew everything about being a centre forward by 18. I knew it all. When to go short, when to go long, when to press, when to pull on the diet. I knew all of that. You just need to learn ring craft, which is by playing games, right? But
of course,
there was nothing really to learn about being centre forward. That's been drilled into you from the age of 8.
Of course, yeah.
Ramble for ages.
Morgan, random question of the week.
Sorry?
Random questions. Let's go for it.
Okay, then. So I have to do the little singing bit because otherwise it doesn't feel the same.
Beautiful.
All right. Random question of the week. So go back to Ted Lasso. There's an episode of Ted Lasso where he starts to experience panic attacks, but he doesn't want to talk about it. So I guess for the listeners at home, what advice would you give to someone who is experiencing panic attacks but is afraid to kind of admit it to loved ones?
Brilliant question. I remember the episode you keep, and I've screen recorded that, and I use that when I'm teaching coaches. So I know it very, very well. How do you share it with loved ones? Was that the question?
Yeah. How do you share how do you admit having panic attacks? Because that's a level of fear in itself to tell people that you're experiencing this stuff.
I don't know. And I mean that because typically what loved ones want to try and do is save you and rescue you and right, what are we going to do? And I'm not saying that, and that's beautiful. Saying it, I guess.
Yeah.
If you look at the Norwich, that incredible commercial that Norwich created on mental health a few years ago, it's terribly sad, but unbelievably powerful and poignant. Men just need to share with men. There's a line in the Bible. I'm not a religious guy, but I have read the great philosophies and psychology and great books. There's a line where iron sharpens iron, man will sharpen man, or something around that. Yeah. Men sharing with men is a very, very powerful. And I'm not saying I wouldn't share with my wife, but men and men is a powerful thing.
Yeah,
because there is a burden of being a man. It's slightly different to the burden of being a female. It's a slightly different burden. So, being able to share that is powerful.
Good advice. I think that's a good place to end today. Drewe, thank you so much for coming on.
No, guys, it's a pleasure.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a pleasure's ours. And I think, it's so good to hear, a career, I think, for a professional footballer that's different and, has made an impact to so many as well. And, I know you aren't able to share some of the people that you have helped with the professional game, but keep doing it. And thank you
so much.
Yeah, I think there is definitely one thing I would say today that, this has been a fantastic opportunity. Thanks so much for coming on. It means the world to me, having to talk about this kind of thing. For the listeners at home as well, a lot of what Drew's talked about can be applied to day to day as well. So please, do try and take his advice. He's a pro. But yeah, thanks so much, Drew. I really mean it from the bottom of my heart.
No, thank you, guys. It's a great thing you're doing. Thank you.
Excellent. And how just to sort of final before we go, how do you find how do you think Norwich's season's going? Have you got any sort of thoughts on where we're going to end up with the
Oh, it's no idea. That championship's absolutely brutal, isn't it? So I know you guys have spent a life up and down promotions. Who knows? If you can just get some form. It's now it's all on. I always think February, March, and April are the 3 months. You can almost hover around till then, and if you can find some momentum going in.
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
We've got. I was going to say to you, Jez, I'm starting to feel that my prediction of tickling the playoffs is going to come true because we've started getting the injuries and the suspensions back.
Yeah.
So just at the right time, it seems.
No, absolutely. I know, long way that continue. You might have a sort of carbon copy of last season, but just for everyone listening at home, you can follow us on our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram and X, and you can now listen to the show on YouTube. Look forward to speaking to everyone soon.
Cheers all. Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of Beyond the Barclay. Thanks so much for listening. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review if you enjoyed the show. You can also catch all our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you've got any questions, stories, or topics you'd like me to cover, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, on the Ball City.